being a member of the Ways and Means Committee. That's the jurisdiction of our committee, which is tax policy, trade policy. And I couldn't have thought of a better guest to invite here to our 6th annual manufacturing summit to talk about his thoughts on U.S. manufacturing when it comes to tax policy, when it comes to trade policy, than Kevin Brady. I can tell you, I know Kevin Brady, I know his heart, and he is a good man, and he is a good leader in Washington, D.C. And I will tell you, you've seen him many a times on TV. He served as our chairman of the Ways and Means Committee through tax reform. And in my heart, he will always be our chairman of the Ways and Means Committee. And even though he's a Houston Astros fan, and I had to deliver pizza to him from Anelios, and there's a lot of folks in here from the Corning-Elmira area that know Anelios, and I had to deliver that to him in a snowstorm from New York when we drove to DC because I had to pay off my bet for the Houston Astros beating our Yankees, and I'll never forget that, Kevin. But it was a bet I owed you rightfully for your Astros beating our Yankees. But you know, he serves the U.S. House, been there for a few years, and I will just tell you, he's one of the good guys in Washington, and I look forward to his words, and I look forward to the exchange today. And with that, I will turn it over to my good friend, Kevin Brady, one of the good guys and one of the great minds in Washington, D.C. on the Ways and Means Committee. Chairman?
Tom, thanks very much for the introduction. I should say that may be the last time you ever send me pizza in that series. I think I'll be bringing you some Texas barbecue in the future, at least the way things are going, unfortunately. And thanks for having me as part of the 6th annual manufacturing summit. I love this, and I'm not surprised that you do this because you know your background in manufacturing, your understanding of job creation has just been so crucial. And you played, for me as chairman at the time, in tax reform such a crucial role because you understood this sector so well. And as you know, a lot of what we designed in tax reform was focused on bringing manufacturing jobs, you know, back to the United States. We knew 2016, we lost another 20,000 manufacturing jobs again. It was like year after year. And every month we opened the paper or went online and saw another manufacturing company moving overseas with their workers. Everyone told us there's nothing you can do about it, but we knew differently. That if you lower tax rates, if you redesign the code so there's more investment in the U.S., if you make sure our U.S. manufacturers can compete and win anywhere in the world, including here at home, we knew you could create jobs. And as a result of your work and ours, along with the president, thankfully we went from 20,000 a year in the hole to gaining 500,000 manufacturing jobs just in the first year and a half. You know, now with COVID, you know, our challenge is to recoup those manufacturing jobs plus more. And that's why I believe your leadership in the Ways and Means Republicans in making America, you know, medically independent from China, bringing that manufacturing back from around the world and anchoring it here in the U.S., and really making the most pro-growth parts of the tax code permanent for our local businesses is so crucial. So, and again, on trade, healthcare, gosh, just so many areas you're knowledgeable. And just thank you for just your leadership in all these major issues for our businesses.
Well, I appreciate that, Kevin. And you know what we have always liked doing with these manufacturing summit is listening from our folks across the district and connecting them with the best information that's out there and connecting them with real thought leaders. And so today is an opportunity to do that, just that. We've had some folks send in some questions from across the district in regards to issues that they're facing. And obviously you touched upon COVID-19 and the impact that's had on our small businesses and the folks that are out there. And so maybe we'll dive right into it and just maybe go back and forth here with some of those questions that have been coming in. And I know the team is fielding and taking some additional questions as we go forward. But one of the things that's come up from a lot of folks, Kevin, is during COVID-19, we put the Paycheck Protection Program. That was a critically successful program, helped a lot of businesses, small businesses, be able to weather this storm and survive this storm. And you and I have talked numerous times about the IRS guidance that came out that talked about how they're considering this loan forgiveness program to be potentially taxable income. And I think you and I agree that we don't want that to be considered taxable income. But can you give any update or your thoughts on how that issue is going to be taken care of, or potentially where we go with that issue?
Yeah, I'm hopeful we get the right outcome here. Look, we were moving so quickly, as you know, to just drive those dollars down into local businesses. We had a huge cash flow crisis, so there was no time to waste. We didn't have much of a discussion beforehand on how those payroll wages could be deducted, but as the issue surfaced, excuse me, I think it became clear, while we wouldn't do it in normal times, anything we can do to keep cash and capital into the hands of local businesses to help them keep their workers and ride this out, we should do it. So I think I'm confident there's bipartisan support for making sure that deduction is available for those wages, for those who got PPP loans. I'm hopeful if Speaker Pelosi will sit down with Secretary Mnuchin, Leader McConnell, McCarthy, and let's find common ground here. I feel pretty confident we've got a good shot to get that provision in. And I think that, along with streamlined forgiveness for our business, is something you push for as well. I think that'll be really helpful.
I appreciate that. And then on another COVID-related situation to help out businesses, the payroll taxes. We have had a lot of input, a lot of questions about. The president signed the executive order on August 8th saying that the employee side of the payroll tax would be deferred. There's been a lot of debate as to what happens to that deferral, and you drafted legislation and submitted legislation that would make sure that would be taken care of so the employee would not be exposed to any issues there. And then also the trust fund that the payroll taxes go to would be protected. And that's our Social Security and Medicare trust fund. And so I just wanted to maybe, could you offer any insight to these businesses, to these manufacturers, as to how you see the payroll tax situation and that emergency action taken by the president given the COVID-19 situation in regards to the deferral of the payroll taxes playing out?
Well, yeah, and Tom, thank you for your leadership in this issue as well. So, look, I was pleased the president acted when Congress deadlocked because people needed help, and that payroll tax holiday we think is very important to the economy into essential workers. I think Tom and I have both argued that we need another round of PPP, that we should expand the employer retention credit. That helps us sort of shoulder some of your wages here, especially for industries where the recovery isn't just around the corner. And then we also create a healthy workplace credit to help shoulder some of businesses' costs for the testing, the PPE, and reconfiguring your workplaces so they're safe. But I think we do need a little more stimulus in the economy. And Congress has debated a lot of things, but frankly, one of the most efficient ways to do that is to target workers, especially our essential workers in healthcare and manufacturing, who frankly have helped us rebound far beyond expectations. And as the president declared a deferral, we believe the time is right for a forgiveness of those payroll taxes from September to the end of the year. Congress has done this several times before. In fact, Democrats joined with us to do that under President Obama twice. We think it's even more important because, one, these are the workers that have helped us recover. Secondly, it's an automatic 6% pay raise for those essential workers. Thirdly, a lot of families that had two earners are now one earner families. Every dollar counts. And if we can provide it to them, that helps. And then finally, it's really good for the local economy. When you got workers, with a bigger paycheck and security in their jobs, we're going to rebound quicker all across this country. And so I'll stop with this. Does it help? And the short answer is, if you've got a family of two teachers, you will save $1,200 in payroll taxes during just those few months. you got a family making 120,000, 2 workers, that's middle class in New York, in much of New York. You're saving almost $2,500. That's really important to families and to the local economy right now. So, you know, I believe this is one of the smart, if Washington's going to continue to, quote, stimulate the economy and do it responsibly, financially responsibly, this is perhaps the most effective way and efficient way to help workers and the economy.
I appreciate that, Kevin. And so moving to the next question we had come in, kind of outside the COVID-19 situation, goes to some of the questions surrounding the tax bill that we did, the tax cut bill. And you and I, obviously going through it together, one of the things we were hoping to do was to make it permanent across the board, both individual and business side of the equation, but obviously that was not open to us. And so some of these provisions are on a sunset path. And one of the things that I hear from a lot of our manufacturers is they're taking huge advantage of the depreciation schedules and the Section 179 deduction and having more access to that cash. And that's why I think we saw a huge bump in the economy and the investment. And, you know, the president created an economic boom like we haven't seen before. And they said it was impossible to do that. And so I was wondering if you could offer the audience any of your thoughts as to, you know, what's going to happen in regards to those temporary nature of those depreciation schedules, the Section 179 deduction, and what are your thoughts in regards to how do we get that taken care of, and what do you see on the horizon in regards to that?
Yeah, so I'm with you. I think this was, as we expected, and the Ways and Means Committee would be one of the most pro-growth parts of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, because it really incentivized and rewarded businesses being able to write off those new investments in equipment and technology, things that make you and your workers more productive. We knew that would be key to getting this economy going, and it's proved to be that way. But I think, as you know, many of you know, the budget rules in Congress are sometimes a little complex. And while the House, we were able to make all the tax cuts permanent, the rules in the Senate didn't allow that. So not all of the tax reform bill was made permanent. One of those that sunsets in 2024 is that really important expensing provision. Tom and I, and the Ways and Means members, believe it's vitally important to make that permanent. We introduced legislation, I think it's led by Jody Arrington of Texas, to make expensing permanent now. We think that creates certainty for our businesses. We know our economy grows more when you've got that tool as a manufacturer or any size business, frankly. So the sooner we make that permanent, the better. And I think if our goal, Republicans have laid out goals for the economy, including creating 10 million new jobs, becoming more economically independent from China. I think one of the keys is locking in the Trump tax cuts like expensing, because it's proven to work. And we don't want to go back to that slow growth economy we saw for too many years. So yeah, I think it's important. And I think the National Association of Manufacturers have been, along with us, real champions in trying to make this permanent. So we hope to push that forward. A lot depends on the elections, but we're hopeful to push that forward.
Appreciate that. And then maybe we get a lot of, obviously being Western New York, upstate, close to Canada and elsewhere, a lot of developments on the trade front, especially when it comes to Mexico, Canada. And, we got the new agreement updated. NAFTA is a thing of the past. And now we got the new Mexico-Canada going into full effect. And so I was wondering if you, you were in the, obviously, front line in regards to negotiating Mexico-Canada. We on the committee were involved with that. We had the Prime Minister of Canada, the Mexico president in town hosting them. And so maybe for our manufacturers, what do you see in the Mexico-Canada agreement in particular for U.S. manufacturing that you want to highlight to folks that they may not be aware of, or that they really could become aware of, that they could take advantage of? I know there's a lot of auto provisions in there, and there's a lot of other issues. But any thoughts in regards to Mexico, Canada that you could give to our folks in Western New York an opportunity to seize upon?
Yeah, if you've got big customers, and their accounts grow with you, you're going to do well. Mexico and Canada are our two biggest trading customers. We want them to grow, and this new U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement is going to do that. I think for manufacturing and for local businesses, keeping zero tariffs on our manufacturing goods is really important for us as we sell. It's not enough to buy American, we need to sell American. So that helps us do exactly that. Secondly, this new agreement cuts a lot of the red tape at the borders and beyond the borders, which our local manufacturers, especially small businesses, have found, sometimes tough to navigate. Those barriers are going to go down. They created a special committee focused on small and medium-sized businesses, which Tom, like me, we've got some large manufacturers, but most of ours in my district are small and medium-sized companies. And a section of that agreement focused on making it easier for them to sell, making sure they have the information, the communication, and we knock down those barriers that get in the way, I think is awfully important for manufacturing and for our small businesses. From your knowledge, is there anything I'm forgetting? That there were a number of provisions there that leveled the playing field between American manufacturers and Mexico manufacturing, including for the first time ever, a requirement of higher content for Americans' parts and parts of the vehicles. Also, requirement that a good part of the Mexico content in automobiles has to be performed with workers making $16 an hour or more. So there's less of a difference between workers in Mexico and the labor costs in the U.S. All of that taken together, I think, is pretty helpful, don't you? I mean, as you saw the agreement, it seemed to tackle some problems that we had with NAFTA in the past.
Totally agree, Kevin. And that's what was always amazing to me as we've got into issues of manufacturing in the district, how all these things are interrelated with each other, especially Mexico, Canada, and then also the auto industry and how much that ripples through our manufacturing industry in Western New York. We got a lot of, and I know you have them in your district near outside of Houston, those small tool and die companies, those supply chains that are supplying to the auto industry. We have a lot of truck. We got Cummins in the district in Chautauqua County. We are supplying multiple pieces of electronics, of small tool and die pieces like we were talking about, CNC operated machines. And so, that supply chain, I don't think can be underestimated. And I think your point that you just said about the small business chapter in particular, I don't think people realize how important that chapter is to them, to give them a real concrete basis to be able to enforce their interests when they're dealing with these international relationships with Mexico, Canada. And we stand ready, and I know you do too, to assist folks. If you have any issues in regards to problems that you're having with the trade flow in Mexico, Canada under the new agreement, we'll definitely be available to assist there. And having that specific agreement provision in there, I think is very helpful. Would you agree with that? I mean, that's
yeah, no question. Yeah, I think even for manufacturing, while we build products, we also deliver services. A lot of our trade, we reach out digitally, and there's new agreements in USMCA. Just makes it easier to do business in these countries, and so I think all that's kind of taken together really helpful for our local businesses. Better, frankly, really good improvements.
I appreciate that. So on top of that, I mean, we have Mexico, Canada. Obviously, that was the news of the last 12 months, other than COVID and everything associated with that. On new opportunities, I know we're talking to the UK and we're talking to Kenya and some other areas. Can you maybe offer some opportunities to some of our manufacturers that are on the call here, or on the Zoom technology, if you would, that they could put on their horizon to, if they're looking, or if they've already got a footprint somewhere? What do you see as areas that you're looking for the committee and for the trade ambassador, Bob Lighthizer over there to crack into, that you see as a huge opportunity maybe for these folks to potentially position themselves to take advantage so that they can grow their businesses.
Yeah, so I think, before COVID, our economy was growing at, just a record pace. And at the time, Ways and Means Republicans made the case that if we want even more growth in America, here in America, we need more workers and we need more customers. Those free trade agreements done right can help us sell American to more customers around the world. I think the U.S. Trade Representative has set the right priorities, which is go after these big markets. A new agreement with Europe, another huge customer for us. UK, which we've always had a great relationship. We think it can even be better. Japan did sort of a mini agreement to help in ag and some things, but that getting into the Asia region there for a manufacturer, really important. So a sort of a stage 2 on Japan. And of course, the next phase on China, I was really impressed with how much was in the phase 1 agreement with China that was good for America. Phase 2, I think, will be even better going forward. I think that's important not to give up on leveling that playing field. You know what I mean? Just making it fair for our U.S. companies is pretty critical. And then I'll finish with this. There's some opportunities in continents like Africa, starting with Kenya. They're eager to create a trade agreement. They want to graduate from just selling into the U.S. They want to have that two-way trade where we're investing more. And I think it's important for a continent that is going to grow over time, just like we saw in the Asia Pacific region. I think, these initiatives that the president's making there, some of it's short-term, some of it's long-term, but bottom line is give our manufacturers and businesses, just a level playing field to compete. We'll do fine. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think you're touching upon it, and we were over in Japan right when the COVID-19 situation was going off, and I think that market in particular, we were meeting with the Prime Minister with a group of members, and we were watching in China, in Wuhan, where the virus was starting to take off, and but seeing firsthand how Japan is looking to negotiate that next phase 2, as you mentioned. Because they see that with America, that long-term relationship is so critical to their ability to stabilize the region, and the aggressiveness of China in regards to what they're doing in the region, in the South China Sea, and the other militant type of buildup operations they're seeing out of China. They want to get closer to America. So from a geopolitical plus a economic relationship, I got a real sense from Japan that they are looking to strengthen the trade relationship. They're looking to open up more markets between the two of them, and they're looking really to take advantage of the next generation of AI, artificial intelligence, 5G. The whole new, the Olympics was all based on the driverless automated vehicles that they were going to roll out. That was kind of one of the things that they were trying to get in front of. So whole new generation of technology coming down the pipeline that I think a lot of our manufacturers, in particular with Japan, could potentially take great advantage of, in my opinion, that they should keep a close eye on, because we're already over there. We already have a relationship, and as we clean up the rules and have a new understanding of a relationship with it, I think you got an eager partner, and we got a new prime minister coming in, obviously, who's going to carry on Abe's tradition, who wants to embrace that relationship with America even tighter. Am I missing anything there, Kevin? You think?
No, I think that's right. And then you couple that with our initiative to anchor production of crucial medicines, medical supplies, and equipment here in the U.S., as well as doubling permanently the research development credit to help, again, encourage our manufacturers and others in the R&D area. You put all of that together, and I'm convinced we can recover the old economy plus more going forward. And I think our manufacturers may well be the biggest beneficiaries of that.
That's a great point. And that's something I think as you know, I'm always the eternal optimist, and I know you are too. And COVID-19 came with a lot of negative headlines, negative outcomes. But one of the silver linings I think will be is that, we saw the need to not be ever dependent on one country, one supply line, one type of manufacturing basis, where it be it rare earths or other supply chains. And you touched upon it. And I think our manufacturers are going to be able to seize upon that opportunity that I think most America woke up to and said, you know what, we never will be caught blindsided again with our dependency on others outside of our domestic control, especially when it comes to a pandemic and COVID-19 situation. So I know the team has been collecting input as we've been talking, Kevin. And this is kind of like a little fireside chat. We're like in our offices. Just you and I, Kevin, having a little conversation.
No, I have, Allison again. You actually already answered the first one. Don from Corning Enterprises had asked, what will the GOP's top trade priorities in the next Congress be? And I think we just pretty extensively covered that. So
that came in from Don Berlew from Corning Incorporated, which you know very well. As you know, I represent that. That's my hometown. And so great company. So I think we covered that one, Allison.
We did. So we're going to move on. We have a question from Laura Davidson at Bloomberg. Both Vice President Biden and President Trump have incorporated Made in America tax initiatives into their campaign platforms to reinvigorate the domestic manufacturing industry. Could you talk a little bit about both of their approaches and generally how we can incentivize a more robust manufacturing industry?
Yeah, so I think, so Tom, you want me to take that first?
Yeah, Kevin, please.
So one, I think it is encouraging, but I know I look at we look at Vice President Biden's tax plans. I don't think you can drive more manufacturing jobs in America if you're going to raise the business rates in America. And if we're going to go back to the old tax code, because that old code, basically said invest somewhere else, move your manufacturing plant to some other country. And by the way, we're going to tax the heck out of you if you produce here in America. Going back to that old code as Vice President Biden is seeking will cost us jobs. It will slow the economy, and I think paychecks will be hurt as well. I really believe President Trump's approach, which is already proven to be, extremely pro-growth, extremely pro-manufacturing already. Now adding to that, making permanent those key business provisions and anchoring new manufacturing of medicines, medical supplies, and ingredients back from the U.S. I think that is the right approach for not just restoring our economy, but going above that.
Maybe I'll add something here if I could, because I think, Kevin, you're spot on. But I would also say it highlights the difference in the approaches between President Trump and former Vice President Biden. And it's also a difference between the parties to a large degree, between the Republican Party and the Democratic Party. My Democratic friends and a lot of the folks I see on this Zoom call, they know I work across the aisle. I got really good friends on the Democratic side. So this is not an affront to my Democratic colleagues. It's just the ideology difference between the two parties. When they talk about Made in America, they talk about trying to achieve Made in America by a government mandate. That somehow if we adopt a law at the federal level, that all of a sudden everyone's going to follow that law and that Made in America will just happen because there's a government mandate. That's kind of the Democratic policy. And I have this debate with my Democratic colleagues all the time. And I say, you can have a mandate, but if you don't create the environment in America to achieve that mandate, all you're doing is creating a paper tiger. You're creating a false sense that you're going to achieve something that's unachievable because of human nature and business environment. It doesn't allow for that to occur. So I think the Republican approach and the kind of what President Trump and others, and I think Kevin shares this, I know Kevin shares this philosophy with us, is you have to create an environment upon which Made in America is achievable. And then you couple up the policy with the environment that says, you know what, you have a competitive American environment so that human nature and business decisions dictate by their own operation, not because of a law, but because it just makes sense from a business perspective that you're going to make it here in America to sell it there. And that's what's happened. That's what's happened by lowering the rates, by having a competitive tax code, by having a competitive market here. We have seen tremendous amounts of reshoring. 450,000 manufacturing jobs, I think, has come back during the administration under President Trump. We're seeing that natural draw of those principles that I just espoused of the Republican Party, if you would. And that draws all by itself upon its own operation, that type of creativity, that type of innovation, that type of entrepreneurial spirit. And that, I think, is a long-term better policy than trying to give someone a quick headline by saying, I'm going to pass a law and force this to happen. And if you don't have the environment in order to achieve that mandate, you can pass all the laws of the world and go to bed at night thinking you did something, but you didn't do anything. You just passed the law and didn't achieve anything. Am I missing anything there, Kevin?
No, I think that's exactly right. Look, letting people keep more of what they earn, rewarding businesses for investing, creating an environment where the U.S. is one of the best places on the world to invest, all that creates jobs. And going backwards to the bad old days, I just don't think that's the recipe.
Yeah, so I think, that's what's really on stage during this presidential debate going in between Biden and Trump is you're choosing Biden, who wants to raise taxes on businesses, who wants to raise and create more regulations and that environment, and versus what we've been advocating for. So I know we got more questions coming in, Allison. So
we do, Tom. Unfortunately, I do know that we have a hard stop at 4:40. As you can see, both of these gentlemen are down in Washington, D.C., and there are votes coming up, unfortunately. So it does shorten our time here a little bit today. And I wanted to leave a little time for closing comments. We are taking all the questions that have come in. We will get you a response to those. And as a reminder, we are live streaming this on YouTube, so it will be available to go back and view and share. If you go and Google or search for Tom Reed, you'll find our account there, and this will be up there as well. So, gentlemen, closing comments before we have to depart today?
Well, just as Tom, thank you for your leadership. It's really great to be with your manufacturers, and I'll just tell you all, you've got a remarkable member of Congress who, with all his business experience, works across the aisle, leader of the Problem Solvers Caucus. We're all hopeful we can come together, for COVID. We're not out of this yet. We've come back a long way, and Tom's helping leading that. So again, Congressman, thanks so much for having me as part of the Manufacturing Summit.
Well, Kevin, thank you for being there. And I'm a big fan, and I just appreciate your friendship, but I also appreciate your mentorship and your guidance and just your wisdom as we go through these tough policy issues. And being on Ways and Means with you is something I cherish. And thank you for being part of this. And if you ever need anything from us, we're here in your corner. Thanks so much.
Thank you all, and we'll see many of you again tomorrow at 10 a.m. where Tom will be doing a panel with Congressman Gottheimer, his Problem Solver Caucus co-chair. Have a great evening.
We had a hard stop, so thank you guys. Well done, Team Reed, and we'll continue